Today we will talk in detail about 7 habits that completely changed my life in just 1 week. You heard right, in just 1 week. I know it sounds almost like a fairy tale, but I promise you this is not just another set of banal advice that you hear every day. These are real living habits that I personally implemented into my daily reality. During this short period, I went through difficulties, faced breakthroughs, and experienced triumph, and my result was simply amazing. I can't wait to share these habits with you because they had a huge impact on my life, and I'm sure they can do the same for you. Whether you want to increase your productivity, improve mental health, or just make positive changes in your daily life, these habits can help you achieve exactly that. So, pour yourself some coffee, make yourself comfortable, and let's begin. Trust me, you'll definitely want to watch until the end, because these habits are not just theoretical ideas. They represent practical and effective steps that you can start applying today. Plus, I'll share personal stories from my experience so you get an honest and unbiased view of how these habits changed my life. Habit 1. Early rising. I'll be honest with you, I was never an early bird. I loved sleeping in my bed and pressed the snooze button more times than I can remember. The morning then passed nervously to be on time, and I often felt that I'm starting my day somehow wrong. But when I decided to at least try to get up early, the result amazed me. I started by setting my alarm for 5 in the morning, and the first day, I didn't even hear it. The next couple of days I got up, but it was hard, to be honest. I remember dragging myself into the shower, not feeling myself, and questioning myself whether it's really worth it. But on the 3rd day, something amazing happened. I suddenly noticed the silence and tranquility of early morning and felt so good. To be present, to feel this world while everyone is still sleeping, when everything is calm and peaceful, it turned out to be a gift from the gods for me. Of course, the extra hours in the morning gave me the opportunity to complete all the tasks that I previously didn't have time for. A strong advantage of getting up early was also that I no longer felt rushed. I had enough time to savor breakfast, enjoy a cup of tea or coffee, and then calmly plan my day. One of my favorite moments that particularly stuck in my memory was when I watched the sunrise. The sky gradually changed colors, and the world around seemed to gradually come alive. Wake up. I felt deep gratitude and peace in my heart and realized that my life isn't so bad. Maybe early rising isn't for everyone, but I urge you to try this habit for just 1 week. You can start by getting up 15 minutes earlier than usual and gradually increase this time, or you can, like me, change your routine immediately. It's up to you to decide. But I sincerely wish you to discover all the treasures that early rising gives. Habit 2. Daily physical activity. I must say right away that I was never particularly active and disliked sports since childhood. At the same time, I could play active games with friends in the yard for hours. But growing up, I found any excuse to avoid workouts and going to the gym. But once I went to the countryside with my new friend and faced the fact that I wasn't capable of walking even 5 kilometers without getting out of breath and feeling tired all over my body. And then I made a promise to myself to move every day for at least a week, but I wanted it to be interesting, so as not to get bored and not quit halfway. And I chose one of the mobile applications offering to harmoniously develop your body in the mornings. The first few days were tough. My muscles ached, I felt like a wreck, but I reminded myself about the countryside walk and that I'm doing this to feel better both physically and mentally. On the 4th day, something completely new happened. In the morning, I felt an unusual amount of energy, my mood was great, and my body seemed to anticipate a pleasant workout. And I understood that physical activity is not just developed muscles and breathing. It's my overall well-being and even my joy of existence. Exercise became for me an opportunity to disconnect from the hustle and return to myself. They became a form of self-care in general, not just about how I look or what load I can handle. Over time, I discovered practices that revealed my energetic possibilities to me yoga, qigong, breathing practices. They taught me to be in the present moment, to feel and hear my body. If now you, like I once did, are having trouble starting, then my advice is to start daily physical activity with what you like. It could be dancing, swimming, cycling, playing ball games in the yard near your house. The main thing to remember is that through body sensations you can discover great energy reserves within yourself and learn hidden truths for now. Habit 3. Limiting time with gadgets. This was especially difficult for me, and I suspect for many of you. We live in a digital age, and it's so easy to get bogged down in endless hours of scrolling social media, marathons, and series. But I came to an important realization. All this time spent with a smartphone has a negative impact on my mental health, productivity, and even sleep quality. And then I decided to limit time with gadgets and see how it would affect my life. The first step was a daily limit, no more than 1 hour of screen time not related to work. This meant no mindless scrolling through social media, no endless YouTube marathons, and of course no late-night series. At first it was hard. I was so used to filling every free minute with my smartphone, but I knew something needed to change. The first thing I noticed was how much time I had during the day. I didn't even realize how much time I was spending on gadgets until I consciously limited their use. In these extra hours, I started rediscovering old hobbies and interests that I had long abandoned. I even started drawing and cooking something in the kitchen. One evening, instead of watching TV after dinner, I went for a walk. I went to the park. Fresh air, sounds of nature, and the very movement of my body were restoring me before my eyes. This was a stark contrast to the usual tired state caused by gadgets. Now I go for a walk at the end of each workday and take my beloved wife with me. Another pleasant bonus was the quality of my sleep. Before, I would lie in bed with my phone, scrolling through social media or watching videos until I wanted to sleep. Often I would discover that by this point midnight had already passed, and I was too agitated to fall asleep right away. Limiting screen time, especially before bed, helped me relax more easily and fall asleep faster. Of course, this significantly affected my overall energy level and mental health. Without the constant flow of news, comparing myself to others on social media, I became much less anxious and more present in the current moment. My usual nervousness and irritation went away. I became more attentive in conversations, more focused on people around me, and more deeply immersed in my daily activities. It was like fog had dispersed, and I suddenly started seeing and feeling life much more clearly. Of course, there were moments of temptation and relapses, but each time I unconsciously reached for my phone out of habit, I gently reminded myself of the benefits I had already felt and redirected my attention to something more useful. Start small, for example, with 1 hour a day, and then gradually increase this time. You might be surprised how much richer and fuller life can become when you step back from gadgets and become more involved in the real world. And this is not a complete rejection of technology, but rather creating a healthy balance and more conscious use of your time. Habit 4. Healthy eating. I don't want to talk about diets or counting calories. Rather, I want to tell you about my path to a conscious relationship with food. Previously, I could eat anything, anytime, often on the go or while working. Fast food, snacks, coffee, everything that helped me quickly satisfy hunger and continue working. But one day I realized that such a relationship with food not only affects my physical health, but also my emotional state. I began to observe how different foods affect my energy levels and mood. And I discovered something interesting. When I eat mindfully, slowly, paying attention to every bite, even simple food brings much more pleasure. And when I started choosing more natural products, my energy level naturally increased and my head became clearer. This doesn't mean I completely gave up my favorite treats. I just learned to eat more consciously and choose quality over quantity. Habit 5. Daily meditation. This habit became truly transformative for me. Before, I thought meditation was something mystical and complicated, available only to monks in Tibet. But after trying simple breathing practices, I realized how accessible and effective meditation can be. I started with just 5 minutes in the morning, simply observing my breath. At first, it seemed impossible to calm my racing thoughts. But gradually, I began to notice changes. I became calmer, more focused, and better able to handle stressful situations. Most importantly, I learned to observe my thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. Like watching clouds pass in the sky, I learned to let thoughts come and go, quietly fading into inner silence. Therefore, I sincerely advise you to start practicing meditation and begin with the first steps for at least 1 week. You can learn how to meditate and why you need it by following the link below this video. Habit 6. Caring for the surrounding world and people around. Like each of us, from childhood, I was used to paying maximum attention to how I personally lived, what things I had, where I went, whether I felt comfortable enough, whether I ate well. Already in my teenage years, I learned to be friends with those guys who could be useful to me in some way. Or I found companies where I had a chance to become popular and wouldn't be bored. By my 35 years, the world completely revolved around my person. I lived alone in a huge apartment in an expensive area, was a top manager of a large corporation, could afford 3 cars, and spontaneous travel to any point on the planet. But soon, this self-centeredness and constant race to capture maximum resources for myself led me to a state of emptiness and disappointment. As I've shared before, I started having severe episodes of depression. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I had everything and even more. I communicated with the most beautiful girls, but somehow couldn't feel the taste of life. At the moment when I caught myself considering options for ending my life, I truly became scared that I might do something to myself. And then I made the decision to do everything to find a way out of the nightmare I found myself in. That same evening, I came across an internet article about how they saved suicidal people simply by offering them to take a homeless animal from a shelter. I was amazed at how these people described changes in their condition after such an insignificant action, in my view. I couldn't understand how this could be connected. The next day, I was driving my car to an important meeting, and suddenly my gaze fell on an elderly woman who was walking on the sidewalk carrying a girl about 5 years old who was clearly unwell. My first reaction was a desire to offer to drive them to the nearest hospital, but the voice in my head immediately exclaimed, "We're late for negotiations. This is a very important contract." And my foot immediately pressed the gas. But then an old minibus overtook me, blocking the possibility to speed up. I braked sharply and saw the woman with her daughter come alongside me. I realized that this time I had to follow my heart. Circumstances worked out so that I not only drove the mother and child to the hospital, bought water and fruits, and called them a taxi for the return journey. But my meeting also miraculously got postponed for 3 hours and went extremely well. Most importantly, that day, for the first time in several years, I felt truly happy. Later, I learned that what pulled me out of depression was sincere, selfless service to completely unknown people. Because it's precisely pure, without any benefit, care for people and the surrounding world that leads us to high emotional states. From that day, I promised myself to find an opportunity to be useful every day. I started with a personal week-long marathon, buying groceries and flowers for my elderly neighbor. Watching her bloom with joy, I filled with a state of bliss and gratitude for life. Start with what's manageable, even if small. Just look around and make an improvement or help where it's needed now. And then observe how your heart thaws and fills with joy and harmony. Habit 7. Trusting life and being grateful for it. This is the strongest and most monumental habit that I was fortunate to acquire. Like many, for most of my life, I fought with circumstances. I was indignant when something went wrong and directed my efforts where I considered profitable and reasonable. even if everything was preventing it. I considered myself successful and purposeful, a real fighter for results. When my health started gradually deteriorating and joy of life leaked away like water in sand, I realized that I was mortally tired. Tired of constantly fighting with what is, with what life gives me. I always wanted something and endlessly demanded more and very rarely was truly grateful. When I realized this, I felt very ashamed, so much that I even burst into tears. Inside, I felt enormous guilt. And not just for myself personally, but for all that lifestyle that many people lead. I didn't understand how to live differently, and decided to start with gratitude. I promised myself that for at least 1 week I would find no less than 5 reasons for gratitude. At first, it wasn't easy. When you're used to taking care from life for granted and devaluing everything that doesn't cause a storm of delight, finding reasons for gratitude is extremely difficult. But life seemed to start helping me, although in quite an unusual way. I started meeting disabled people and communicating with people who had recently lost loved ones. On TV, I came across a story about children dying of hunger in the slums of Bangladesh. By the time there was a fire in the house across the street, I was already sufficiently filled with gratitude to understand how tenderly and carefully life treats me. Gratitude helped me not only appreciate every little thing, but also believe that life loves me very much and is growing a person with a capital P in me. You just need to open up to this, open your heart, and be attentive, and then everything will happen correctly. Try during the week to find reasons for gratitude, for example, at the end of the day when you're already preparing for sleep. Remember your day or feel your body with hands and feet, seeing eyes and the ability to hear and feel this world. Remember those who are deprived of this opportunity, and gratitude will come by itself. You will be very pleased to find more and more reasons for gratitude and kind dialogue with your life with each day. And here we've come to the end. 7 habits that radically changed my life in just 1 week. It's an incredible experience, not only implementing these habits but also sharing them with you. Each of these habits has enormous potential for positive changes in your life. And I sincerely believe that if they could help me, they will help you too. If any of these habits inspired you, I urge you to try it for yourself. Start small, maybe with 1 habit. See how it suits you. Adjust them to your needs and lifestyle. Remember, the main thing is progress. It's about making small but significant steps that will lead to big changes over time. I would be very happy to hear about your experience, so don't hesitate to share in the comments which habit you plan to implement in your life. Thank you for watching, and remember, small changes lead to big results.